In this video, I'll teach you how to do the yarn over slip 1 and the brioche knit 2 together stitches. And I am teaching this in the context of the basic brioche headband pattern. So I will be using that pattern to demonstrate how to do these stitches. But any basic brioche pattern is going to have these 2 stitches in it. So I've done the cast on with the provisional crochet cast on as instructed in the pattern. If you're using a different pattern, you can use a different cast on. It makes no difference. So in this pattern, it starts with the yarn over slip 1 as the first stitch of the foundation row, which is row 1 of the pattern. So we are to do the yarn over slip 1, you bring the yarn forward, slip the stitch as if to purl, and bring the yarn around the needle, see, to finish the yarn over. Then the next stitch is a knit stitch, and the next stitch is the yarn over slip 1 again. We just keep going across the pattern of the row that way. So bring the yarn forward, slip the stitch, bring the yarn over the needle, not between the needles, over the needle, and then knit. One more time continental style, and then I'll switch to English. Insert the needle, bring the yarn forward, insert the needle to slip, yarn around, knit. Now doing it English style is exactly the same, it just looks a little different. So I will bring the yarn forward, slip the stitch, and then go straight into the knit stitch, because by doing that you can see the working yarn is finishing that yarn over as we start the knit stitch. So it's all kind of one smooth move, whether you're doing it English style or continental. So bring the yarn forward. For the yarn over slip, slip that stitch, and then knit the next stitch. It'll finish the yarn over, and knit the stitch. Just be careful when you're doing this that you don't pull it too tight, because with all those yarn overs, if you pull them tight, it can make your stitches look very wonky. It does help sometimes, but you see how it's got that little hint of fuchsia up there? It's because that stitch got pulled up. When I pull down, it gets it to settle into place. Now, the first row of the actual brioche pattern, which is row 2 of the headband pattern, is very similar. It starts with the yarn over slip 1, so we're going to bring the yarn forward, slip the stitch. Then the next stitch is a brioche, knit 2 together. Now I do want to mention, be careful that you don't pull this first stitch tight. See how I have it pulled? It's got those 2 strands there, but those 2 strands are actually the strands from the stitch below. There we go. Let me put the stitch back and show you again. So I slip, yarn over, and if I pull it too tight, it pulls those strands up. Don't do that. You might even want to put your finger on that yarn over so it doesn't pull that stitch too tight, because that will give you trouble later on if that happens, whether you're knitting continental style or English style. Just kind of pinch that first yarn over so it doesn't get too tight. Now, the next stitch, so we just did a yarn over slip 1. The next stitch is the brioche knit 2 together. Now this is just like a regular knit stitch, except you've got 2 strands here. You've got the slip stitch and the yarn over from that yarn over slip 1 that you did on the last row. You always knit them together in brioche. So that's called a brioche knit 2 together. It's commonly abbreviated BRK. So then the next stitch is the slip 1 yarn over, so yarn forward again, slip the stitch, oh, now you don't want to do what I just did there. I brought the yarn back between the needles like I was doing a slip 1 with yarn in front. So let's redo that. So the slip 1 yarn over for brioche, you've got the yarn in front, you slip the stitch, and the yarn goes over top of your needle there instead of between them. And then I knit, or I BRK, brioche knit 2 together, the 2 strands, the yarn over and the slip stitch, we knit them together as 1 stitch in brioche. That's a BRK, or brioche knit 2 together. So yarn forward to yarn over slip 1. The yarn goes around the outside of your working needle, and then you knit, brioche knit 2 together the next stitch. Now if I switch to English style, it's exactly the same, it just looks a little bit different. So yarn forward for the yarn over slip 1, and then we're going to brioche knit 2 together. So these two, it's the yarn over and the slip stitch, they get knit together as one stitch. And then again for the yarn over slip 1, bring the yarn forward, slip the stitch. The last stitch of this row is the brioche knit 2 together. So we'll pick up those 2 strands and knit them together to finish the row. So a couple of things I want to show you about these stitches. Let's turn it like we're starting the next row. So this first stitch is going to be a yarn over slip 1. You can see that stitch is pretty much straight up and down and kind of by itself. The next stitch is going to be the brioche knit 2 together. So you've got this very slanted stitch, that's the yarn over, and this one is your slip stitch. That slip stitch is going to look like a knit stitch below it here. And the yarn over is always going to be very slanted. So those two are always going to get knit together in brioche. Now the next stitch, it looks a lot like a purl stitch. You see it's got the little horizontal strand right there. You have it on the first stitch here too, it's just kind of not as obvious. So the stitches that you yarn over slip are always going to have this little collar at the bottom of them looking like a purl stitch. Then these two, the very slanty stitch and the one that has what looks like a knit stitch below it, actually is a knit stitch below it, those are the two you're always going to brioche knit together. Then you come to another one, it looks like a purl stitch, it's got a collar around the bottom. That's the one you're going to yarn over slip. And then you'll knit these two together and the whole way across the row. And that's how the entire brioche, basic brioche pattern for this headband works, with the yarn over slip 1 and the brioche knit 2 together.